welcome and welcome back. I hope you're doing well. If you're new here, I really appreciate you stopping by, and I encourage you to have a look around and like, comment, share, and subscribe if you'd like. I'd like to talk to you about cutting your losses after narcissistic abuse. There are so many parallels between cutting your losses after narcissistic abuse and also cutting your losses in the area of trading. And I know that everybody's not a trader, but there's so many parallels, I can't help it. And one of the lessons that I've learned, hard lessons I've learned even in trading, is cutting losses quickly. And that is one of the most valuable lessons that you can learn, because when it becomes apparent that, say, for example, a trade is not going the way that you thought it would, that you have a standard by which you are going to stop the bleeding and cut your losses. And what that does is, and you can do that, by the way, by, say, setting a stop loss, or you can set an alert like, hey, if it gets to this point or the price action gets to this point, then I'm going to cut this trade. And what it does is it allows you to preserve as much of your capital as possible so that you can live to trade another day. See where I'm going with this? And likewise, when you've gone through narcissistically abusive relationships and you've suffered some losses in these areas that I'm going to touch on, it's important that you find a way to cut your losses as quickly as possible so that you can then preserve as many of your resources as possible in these areas that I'll mention, and reallocate them in a way that's more productive, more positive, and that's going to be just more beneficial, whether it's to you and your future and to others that may be more positively impacted by those resources, as opposed to having them drained. The first area that I want to cover is money or finances. And this could include investments where you may need to cut your losses. It could be real estate or stock. Maybe you're in a relationship, like, say, a marriage, where your partner has dipped into or liquidated certain resources, taken a loan out on real estate or something like that, or sold off shares of stock to fund an addiction or to do something else, but maybe you weren't aware of it, or you really didn't want that, but they maybe coerced you into letting them do it or bullied you. Money or finance could include opportunities like education or travel, and this could be for a spouse or partner, maybe even a child that you provided opportunities for that were maybe not managed properly or squandered. This could include a business venture. You might have partnered with someone who maybe screwed you over, or didn't manage things very well in the business, and you're kind of holding the bag. This could also include aid or assistance or some other kind of support that you've provided to someone, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly. When you are going through narcissistic abuse and being impacted in this way, and you come to realize that you're being drained, it's important to cut your losses. Again, addictions or a sense of entitlement could be fueling this type of behavior in this particular arena. A second area that I want to talk about is time or the duration of, say, a relationship. It could be a long-term relationship, like a marriage that goes on for decades, a tenure, say, at a job for a number of years where you suffer narcissistic abuse. It could also include a time-stamped commitment or obligation, like, say, for example, if you've committed to supporting someone for a certain period of time, or helping them out in a certain area, whether it's educationally, it could be financially, it could be providing shelter. If you've endured narcissistic abuse and suffered losses in this area, it could be due to multiple chances being given, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances, you know, cognitive dissonance, making excuses, rationalizing bad behavior, and or not wanting to admit defeat in the face of toxic dynamics or behavior. It could also be the result of a lot of future faking, someone convincing you that, hey, you know, I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today, or so to speak, or promising you, hey, I'm going to do better, or I'm going to have this to pay you back by this date, or I'm going to accomplish this by this date, and if you just give me a little bit more time or give me one more chance, I'll do it, or I'll do this for you, or I've got this opportunity for you, and it's going to come into fruition at this time, and you're waiting and rationalizing and being strung along. There's a loss of time that comes into play in a situation like that, where you can't get that back. Another area where you may suffer losses is in the area of energy or effort that you have expended, maybe giving someone the very best of your character or your ideas or your talents or other resources, and really pouring into essentially an empty vessel or a bottomless pit in regards to the relationship dynamic or an individual who is just not in a place where they're able to really appreciate what you have to offer and what you are pouring into them. Finally, an area where you may suffer loss is attention or focus. This could include an opportunity cost, like maybe you poured into a certain person or a certain relationship or an opportunity that went along with that. And because of that, you missed out on something else because your attention and your focus was being directed this way. Along with that, maybe you've let certain things go. Maybe you've let your health go, caring for your kids, maintaining your home, really performing well on your job or your education or other training, keeping your car serviced. It may be the act of taking the bait if you're dealing with more of a con artist or a scammer, where someone enticed you with an offer or an opportunity or a sob story, or maybe their appearance, or it could be the appearance of being successful or having something to offer, whether it's an opportunity or something material. You might have taken the bait and fallen right into essentially a trap. And it doesn't even have to be someone that you're familiar with, but just more of a stranger, and more of kind of a random encounter. You could suffer a loss in a situation like that as well. What does cutting your losses after narcissistic abuse in those areas look like? From a trauma-informed perspective, how someone behaves in a certain situation or relationship has to do with what they've been through and or what they're currently going through. One thing that you can do after detaching or disconnecting from the situation or from the individual, if it's a relationship that you're able to get away from, is to take time to do some self-reflection. It's easy to kind of focus on other people and what they did or how they're acting, but it's really important for you, especially on your healing journey, to be able to go within and really do that self-reflection so that you can learn more about yourself, how you're made up, and where you've come from, what you've been through, because really, at the end of the day, the one person that you can control is yourself, more so than controlling someone else or their behavior. The second thing is to learn the lesson. And I like to think of the narcissistically abusive relationship as ultimately a life lesson. And I think if you look at it as a lesson and not a loss, you still need to cut your losses within the relationship. But if you look at the whole picture as a life lesson and not a loss, then it becomes more of a stepping stone to where you want to get to and who you want to become and who you need to become to be able to be successful where you're going. A third thing is to count your blessings, not to minimize what you're going through, but that things can always be worse, and to keep that in mind and to come from a position of strength. Like, what do you have to offer? What do you have left? What do you have to work with? And if you look at it that way, then you can approach your future in a forward-thinking way and come from more of a position of strength. Like, you know what? I might have lost this or taken a hit in this area, but I still have this. And then focus on that and work from that position going forward. Fourthly, you can work on boundary setting. That's so important to be able to understand, okay, like setting that stop loss. Like, you know what? This is where I draw the line. Like, next time when I'm faced with this situation, it stops here. Or when I see this behavior, or when it gets to this point, I'm cutting bait, or that's it, I'm leaving, or I'm ending the conversation even. It could be as simple as that, especially if you're in a relationship that you can't easily get away from. Fifthly and finally, practice vetting. And this is something that doesn't really get talked about a whole lot, but a lot of times we don't do it. We don't vet people that we enter into relationships of any kind, or agreements or partnerships, or that we offer assistance to. We don't vet, we don't do our research, our background checking, our fact checking, asking questions. It's uncomfortable a lot of times. It's awkward. It seems a little extra, or it may seem distrustful. It's easier to go with the flow. It may seem time-consuming on the surface. It may seem extra. It may seem unnecessary or cumbersome or maybe expensive. Those are 5 areas that you can focus on after narcissistic abuse when it comes to cutting your losses and moving forward, so that you can ultimately find healing and also make better choices going forward. And hopefully, as in trading, reduce your losses so that it's not necessarily about being perfect and never incurring a loss again, but it's about minimizing your losses or cutting them quicker next time. What are some of the ways that you've had to cut your losses after narcissistic abuse? And what area or areas are you focusing on going forward to be able to minimize your losses in the future? You're not alone and you're not crazy. Know who you're dealing with, know who you are. Take care. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.